in my thinking, the idea that the cosmos and the divine principle are constantly in an act of co-creation is very important. This is an idea that was articulated by Alfred North Whitehead, who I hold in considerable esteem.
Yeah, I probably struggle a little more with Whitehead in the sense that I think that there's a manner in which, let's say, the revelation of the divine principle, for at least for a Christian, from a Christian perspective, the revelation of the divine principle will happen in this almost like intercourse, right? You have this almost sexual imagery in Scripture between the bride and the bridegroom, between the two aspects. But that there is, let's say, the infinite is behind that, or there is an apophatic emptiness or source out of which this play kind of comes into being, which at least in Scripture is represented as the let's say the first moment of creation. And so you have heaven and earth, but you have something which is behind, that is the source of both of that opposite. Just so we don't fall into a kind of duality, a dualism.
No, well, I think not to exactly. I suppose my belief about the divine are processual. So I believe that the divine creation is a process. In fact, I believe that all things are processes. What we call things are, in fact, ways of nominalizing processes and making us think that they're somehow distinct and separate from other things, other processes. But I think what you're possibly trying to do, which I would sympathize with, is maintain the possibility, because after all, we agree that ordinary language won't encompass the divine, that we can have an idea of God as eternal and as something that is constantly coming into being.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think so. Well, at least that's the way that I would see it. And I would see, let's say, the divine story, or a good image that you see in Scripture. You have this grand story, right, where you have this movement from the garden to the city, and this filling up of the world with presence. And so it starts with the seed, with a tree in the natural world, and it ends with this glorious, shining filling up of even human activity with the divine presence, you could say. But it is like an idealized vision of this process of filling up of the world with the divine principle. Yeah.
Well, I don't know about, perhaps I question, but I don't want to get into legalistic manner of procedure, but I don't know about filling up, suggesting that at some point it wasn't filled. I mean, my idea of process is not that something becomes to a greater degree divine, but that the divine becomes to a greater degree what it is, if you see what I mean. So it's not a matter of filling up something that was formerly an imperfection by adding in some more divinity, but instead that the divine is itself something that is eternally something that can be unfolded without in any way damaging its integrity. In fact,
I definitely agree. And you could see it almost like you could see the story as an intersection within God. Like it's like we see it as a slice of something which is eternally happening and eternally true. But because of our position, we just see this as this line, a point there and a point there and a through line. But ultimately it is something which is eternally happening. Or not, the word happening even doesn't account for what it is we're trying to talk about.